Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to Rise and Thrive with Dr. J. Nicole, where we are rising in faith and thriving in purpose. Today, I am joined by Brittany Livingston, my fellow social worker.
Hey.
Brittany is a licensed clinical social worker in both Maryland and DC, and a proud Prince George's County native. Not everybody can say that because we got a lot of people that's coming through the area, right?
Yes.
So, with more than a decade of experience spanning school social work, hospital settings, and child welfare, brings a well rounded perspective to her practice. She is deeply rooted in the belief that family is foundational and has a unique passion for exploring attachment and its impact on interpersonal relationships. Welcome, Brittany.
Thank you. You made me sound real important.
You are important. You did these things. It's facts. I think that is the thing. When you hear other people say it, you're like, oh,
Yeah,
okay.
I'm like, wait, you talking about
Yeah,
me?
girl, we're
I
talking
guess
about
what? That's me.
you.
That's me.
That's me. And so I had the pleasure of meeting Brittany in the pursuit of higher education. We met in the Howard University School of Social Work. Fred Taylor Roll Away the Stone nonprofit management program. That is a mouthful.
Yes.
And I might have forgot a couple other things in there, but the focus was
Yes.
nonprofit management. So it was a certificate program, and we worked together in a group. And so I just really got to know more about Brittany and discovered that she also like is very intrigued with social work attachment specifically and what that looks like in relationships. So that's going to be our focus today. And yeah, so have you ever noticed patterns in the way that you connect with people, whether it's in friendships, family dynamics, romantic relationships, or even your relationship with God? Attachment styles play a major role in how we experience connection, trust, and emotional safety. So, this episode, we're going to do some unpacking here of how early life experiences shape our attachment styles, how these patterns influence all kinds of relationships, and most importantly, how to break unhealthy cycles and cultivate secure, thriving connections.
Yes. Yes.
Oh, this is about to be so good. Just because, man, when you understand attachment and how you can transform your life, like, and have all the relationships you desire, it's a powerful thing.
Great.
So let's talk about it. What is attachment and why does it matter, Brittany?
So attachment is your connection. So I mean, we could go to like the regular definition of attachment, but attachment when it relates to people is just your connection to your caregiver and how you see the world and relationships is basically what attachment is. There's several different attachment styles that we can have. So we have the secure attachment, right? So that's your typical attachment. You are doing the things right. You have safe relationships. You feel safe in relationships. You can have an anxious attachment style where I mean, it just is what it says, right? You are craving reassurance. You're fearful in relationships. You're always constantly on edge. You can have an avoidance style of attachment where you prefer independence, you struggle with vulnerability, you're withholding in your relationship. And you can also have a disorganized type, which is like all that put together, where you
Mhm.
experience fear of closeness and fear of abandonment also. So those are the four that you can see. However, where does attachment begin? And
Mhm.
I always think that the biggest example that I have when I think about attachment is a lot of times, and especially in our community, they'll say, our elders may say, you gotta let that baby cry. That baby don't, you don't need to pick,
Where you were going? Yep.
you need to pick that baby up when they crying. You don't, no, you need to let that baby cry. They don't, because they're gonna be a crybaby if you. And so, really, actually, we should be doing the exact opposite. The way we learn about attachments is really through our infancy, and there's 4 stages of attachment, and they happen from birth to about 9 months old, and that's where we develop what attachment style we have. So it's really, really important that as parents, we really focus on making sure that we respond to our children's needs consistently and constantly, especially from birth to 1 year old. Now, beyond that, we must do that as well, right? But when our baby cries, we got to pick up our baby because our baby is
Mhm.
saying, I have a need. And I need to know that when I have a need, that somebody is going to respond to my need, right? And so that's how I attach to you. I've developed a relationship with you because I know when I have a need and I let you know I have a need, that you will be there. Our attachments get disrupted when I have a need and you don't meet my need consistently, right? And it could be for a multitude of reasons, and sometimes it's no fault to our own, right? We may as parents be depressed, and it has nothing to, it could be postpartum, it could be because
Mhm.
situational, it could be a chemical imbalance. We
You
could
back had to go back to the workplace.
maybe you had to go back to the workplace and you're a new mom and you have to figure out how I'm going to do all of this, right?
Mhm.
So now the ability to form that bond and meet your child's needs is skewed a little bit because now you're having to focus on other things that maybe before you didn't plan for.
Mhm.
So that's the biggest thing. It's just really focusing on how you respond to your child's needs in infancy. So I can share the four stages that happens. So
Yeah, go ahead. Listen, you know, I'm geeking out over here,
okay.
loving every bit of this. So go ahead, girl. Give us the stages.
So from 0 to 3 months, you have your pre-attachment stage. So you may see a baby, they'll just go to whoever has the bottle, who meets their needs. They're not really, they don't have a preference. They're still learning like what I need to do to get you to respond to me. And then you'll see from 6 weeks, anywhere from 6 weeks to 7 months, you'll see an indiscriminate attachment where now our babies are like, I like the way mom gives me the bottle best, or I like to sleep with mom the best. Like they're starting to differentiate between like who is the best person for them, who is their primary
Mhm.
caregiver. Anywhere from 7 to 11 months, you'll see discriminate attachment. So they have a strong attachment to a person, and you'll start to see maybe even separation anxiety from their person, their primary caregiver. So they may prefer one versus the other. And then
Mhm.
after 9 months, that's when a baby can start to develop multiple attachments with multiple caregivers. So they may be attached to their daycare provider. They may have an attachment with their grandparent or a sibling. So they start to be able to attach to other people. So if you notice, by 9 months, a baby can begin to have multiple attachments with other people. And so if their attachment has been skewed before 9 months, what that looks like after 9 months, it's already begun to develop, if that makes any sense.
Mhm. Mhm.
So it's really, really important that we do what we can to make sure that we're showing up for our babies. That's where it
Yeah.
starts.
This is so good because so essentially I'm hearing like this is the blueprint, right? So like even though and this just really speaks to how uniquely and wonderfully we are made that this baby is a blank slate essentially. Like if you think about it and just coming into the world. Well, let's not say that, right? Because our brain is made how it's made, like, you know, the intentionality with God. But they're not verbal,
Mhm.
they found figure out a way to communicate and they just continue to advance and evolve
Yeah.
and know what to do to get their needs met, like the biology, the instinct that's in there. To me, that's just like super dope, number one.
I agree.
But also two, that all of this, when people say they ain't gonna remember that, they ain't gonna hurt them.
It's like almost like you could say, you know how people say that's in your DNA. Like it is because like from the moment they pop out the womb, like, are you hugging me? Are you That's why skin to skin is so important.
Oh yeah.
Like that is not the very beginning, but that is the beginning of attachment, So
Mhm.
yeah, I agree.
Yeah, this is. I was about to say something else that but then you bringing up the skin to skin, that's so important. And that consistency, because what happens if you are consistent with your infant. It says people care about me. My needs are important. People are responsive. They are attuned to me.
Yeah,
Life is good,
yeah,
and the distress will likely be low that this infant experiences.
yeah. And then they
Now, when
can
we
oh go ahead.
go ahead.
Then they can mirror that too as they
Okay.
grow. They can begin to have healthy relationships with their peers. Then it goes into, interpersonal relationships and dating relationships, so that they start to emulate, whatever their attachment style is very young. But I'm
Because it's
sorry.
their experience. Yes, that's where I was gonna go. The experience that they have. So you can't convince a person that they're safe. You can't convince a person that, like, you love them. They have to experience love and safety. It's an experience. And so attachment is the foundational experience of relationships.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. I
Amen.
was like, I like
That's
that. I
it.
like that.
Yes, that's it.
Yeah, I'm like, it's so good and it's so simple. And it's like, if you don't know, like, you don't know.
Right. That's true.
And okay. So do you want to go any deeper into the attachment styles? I know you gave a higher level overview, but like, okay, okay. Let me slow down. I'm excited about it. So talk about why attachment isn't just like a dating thing. Because I think that's where most people start to get into attachment or curious about attachment in their romantic relationship. So talk about it like in that context, but also what it looks like in work, in friendship, leadership, faith, like all these other areas of our life.
Yes. So attachment, it grows with us, right? It is who we are. And I wanna just, so this conversation, like if you're thinking about, well, what's my attachment style? And that might be me. It's not all doom and gloom. You have the opportunity to rewrite your story. So I do want to give like that precursor that, like, you may identify with some of these things and feel that this may be you or someone that you love. And there is hope. You can
Mm-hmm.
rewrite this story for you. You can rewrite this story for your children too. So, if you're still parenting, so it's not doom and gloom, and it's not the end of the world. You
Yes.
can you can get help. You can definitely get help. You can go see Dr. J. She can help you with your attachment style.
You can go see Brittany and she will help you with your attachment
Hey,
style. And there's other, qualified professionals that are able to do that and help you to recognize that.
yeah,
Um, and I was about to say something, and we'll come back to the question too, because when thinking about that, I do introduce attachment to a lot of people, and I have them do an attachment style quiz. I'll use the attachment project because I like that they do the write up based on the individual's responses. And they give this wonderful table that shows where their dots are on the chart, which box, right? So whether it's their main, like their primary style, with their romantic partner, if there is one, and their two caregivers. And it's fascinating when you see that on the table or on the chart in front of them, and it's like you see their relation, they see themselves and their relationships and how they're positioned. And it's super, it's just really dope.
do you?
But
Oh, go ahead.
a big part of this that I tell people is, when you have your attachment style, this is not about judging your parents.
Oh, that part.
And to get past that, this is your truth, this is your experience, not an assessment and evaluation of the parent,
Yes.
because that can stop people from saying this is what happened, or they're always having to give it I love my mom, but, or
Right.
don't, you don't even have to say that, just
Right.
what happened is what happened. That's your truth. We're not judging it.
Yes, I agree. Yes. So I think I wanted to have that conversation before we go a little bit deeper, because people
Yep.
may start to identify, and then I don't want them to feel scared. Like, what am I supposed to do? Um,
Absolutely.
but so back to your original question about what does this look like, as an adult in our interpersonal relationships. And so, you know, a secure attachment, you're going to show up really confident. You're going to have very clear boundaries. You are going to be very loving and trusting of those around you. So
Mm-hmm.
that is a secure attachment. That's what it will look like. It will look like that at work. It will look like that at home. It will look like that in leadership, with your friends. Just very confident, very secure. Um,
Sounds like they live a life of ease a little bit.
Yes. Well, so attachment isn't the end all be all of who you are.
Right.
It is just the explanation of how you relate to others. So there are other things that can impact how you show up. So that's also a thing, because you could have a secure attachment, and then maybe you could be suffering from depression or anxiety. And so those can impact how you show up in a different way than attachment.
Yeah, and even secure attachment, like that's the goal, it doesn't mean that it was a perfect experience either,
Right.
because attachment looks at the levels of anxiety and avoidance that are experienced in the relationship that we're talking about. So even in secure attachment, they can experience some anxiety and some avoidance. It's not to the point that it's a disruption.
Right. And it could be specific to that relationship. Like something
Yes.
happened with, my spouse, or something happened with my boss or somebody that reports to me, that impacts how I show up in this relationship, but that isn't
Mm-hmm.
necessarily the foundation of relationships. So yes. So an anxious attachment type, this is the person in an intimate relationship who is, constantly worried, shows up maybe even jealous. Like, are you cheating on me? Where are you? What's going on? And is very concerned about what this person is doing that may interrupt my relationship with them, and not focus so much on being a partnership. So that's how someone who has an anxious attachment may show up. And so what it looks like from a parenting perspective is maybe even your parent was anxious, or
Mm-hmm.
maybe, and so I think where we have to pay attention is just, so a lot of times we parent the way we were parented, and so we just have to pay attention to this so we aren't creating this in our children. So
Mm-hmm.
someone who is avoidant may show up disenfranchised or independent, right? Like,
Hyper independent.
right, I don't need your help. I got this. No. And so someone who's trying to partner with you may feel disjointed, or may feel that you don't want them or you don't need them in this relationship. So what am I here for? So that's
Mm-hmm.
what that can create in an avoidant relationship. You struggle with vulnerability, so it's hard for you to kind of just, talk about any, maybe even traumas you've been through, talk about how you're really feeling about what's going on with life, or in other parts of your relationships.
Mm-hmm.
So that person may present maybe even a little stoic. And
Yeah, and I would also add to that that they had experiences where they got the message that like their needs were too much or
yes,
no one was going to come, so they go inward.
yep,
And so they move away from people
yep,
because they have been let down, because the caregiving response was so inconsistent.
yep, and right, and so that's how that correlates.
I
And so
can do it myself.
right, and so that's how we have to be careful that we don't show up like that, so we don't create that for our children as well. Yep.
And thinking about too how it shows up in kids is not a good thing when kids are super independent and can do things on their own. That's actually a sign that that kid is compensating, that they are doing too much. So we don't want those kids that are highly advanced unless we're intentionally doing something where we're like, say it's cooking. This kid has a natural interest in baking, and so they want to bake. No, we're talking about the kid who, because mommy's working all the time, or dad is sick, I don't know, right? Like they have to go do these things. And those kids sometimes get rewarded
Yes.
for that. It gets reinforced.
Hmm.
And then they're in this role where they're constantly looking outward and taking care of others. And then that's telling them like that's what relationships are about too. They become like a caregiver all throughout their relationships too.
Yep. The parentified child. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
That's that.
Yep. Look, that could be a whole other episode too.
The parentified. You know what? Yeah. Got to come back
And what
around.
that looks like in
Parentified
dating.
child.
Yes. That's a thing.
It is. Yes. So the disorganized person um will show up um very fearful of being close to somebody, kind of like this idea of I'm gonna break up with you before you break up with me, may have other partners, and is very fearful of abandonment because they were abandoned, as a
Mhm.
child. So maybe someone who may have been in foster care or may have experienced some neglect or just abandonment, could could be someone who shows up with the disorganized attachment style.
And it could be emotional abandonment.
Yes. right?
Dang, it's this book, The Power of Attachment, where I forget which attachment style it is, but they were talking about how people get this lesson of that the function of the relationship, or the relationship has to be functional. Like it's about utilization.
Mm,
Which then gives like this transactional nature of it. The other thing, I think someone explained this attachment style to be like, they're like, because they deeply crave, they want connection, right? Because we're wired for that. So they're like, come close, and they'll let you really close, and then they're like, no,
it's too
go,
close.
you
Hmm.
too close, too fast, too soon, or they will disappear on you
Yes.
because now they've been made uncomfortable because their history says people let me down.
Hmm. Yep.
Yeah,
It's the disappear.
man, it's a roller coaster.
Yeah, it is. And it's hard. I mean, being a parent is hard, just being in a relationship can be challenging. And so
Mhm.
all of these things aren't easy. And we talk about it like it just sounds like, okay, this is how you should do it, right? But it's hard. This stuff is hard. And you have to, and life's, right? So
Mhm.
you have to make sure while life is lifing, you're doing all the right things and picking up your baby every time they cry, and so I can see how people, why there is an array of attachment styles and how people can
Mhm.
kind of fall into different categories of this. So yeah, it's
Yeah, so along that line, let's talk about what attachment style looks like in friendship, right? And why some people are comfortable being like the giver or the fixer in their friendships.
Yeah, some people are because that's how they learn to engage with their caregiver, right? And so if I make you happy, then everything's okay and you can love me the way I need to be loved or I want to be loved. So now I'm
Mhm.
just going to please everyone around me and I'll be the one that gives in this relationship. So yeah, that is how you can show up in your friendships based on how you or your attachment was developed.
Yeah, so it gives connection has to be earned. I
Yes.
have to do to get what I need.
Yes. That's it.
And people are not aware. They're just like, well, I'm a giving person. And like, you know what I mean? If we're hanging out on the surface, but we adapt to what our caregivers did and did not have, or
Mhm.
could or could not give to us. And so, as humans, because we talk about how amazing this brain is and how we develop, we're wired for connection. So, we're going to get it how we can. And we get the lesson, like you said. Well, if I do these things, I get praise. Or if I do this thing, I get access. I get a hug. I get you know what I mean? So, like, it gets reinforced. And so then we think that this is how the world goes. So
Right.
then this kid goes to preschool or wherever they go first, and they
Mhm.
start doing and modeling what is happening in their homes.
Mhm. Yeah.
And then this can set them on a path to being a fixer and a giver. But if they don't choose, and depending on their caregiver and like their personality and styles, this could be a great thing if it's like reciprocal.
Mhm.
But what if this is their experience has is with the parent where it's never enough?
Right.
So
Yeah.
that can lead to like being super anxious, or that I'm never doing enough in relationship and just
Mhm.
overdoing it and taking people pleasing to a whole other level and like losing self.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, because what I did was never enough and I crave that. So let me keep keep and yeah, and you can lose yourself if you keep at it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Was there anything else you wanted to say about attachment in friendships?
No, I mean it can look pretty similar to relationship except for like, you're not really cheating, on your friend or,
Well,
per se.
some people be acting like their friends are cheating.
Well,
I have been in friendships with people where they were like possessive almost, like, or threatened when new friends came around.
that's a thing. Yes.
Yes, that is a whole thing. And I remember someone we had fallen out in our friendship, and then we were having a healing conversation, and she was saying, I had a hard time with you becoming friends with other people because I saw you doing things for them that you had never done for me.
Oh,
And but then she said, but I didn't need those things.
no.
So, but it took her some time to figure it out that it's not a equal thing.
Yeah,
It's,
that was very
what each
introspective.
person needs.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm.
I could see that being a thing from an attachment perspective. Yeah.
Hmm. Or like, how it is where people be like, no new friends, or no, I'm your only friend.
Right.
That's telling you something too about that person and
Hmm.
their attachment style.
Exactly.
Very anxious
Yeah.
and or disorganized.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, this is what I wanted to ask you. When you were talking about your clients and you do the attachment chart, do you ever see correlation between what their attachment style is with their parent and their partner and their
So it depends, right, on their history.
Okay.
So and it depends on how soon we bring it up. But like, in that first session or through intake documents, you get some information. And so if they've already said that their relationship is really fractured or tenuous with a parent, that parent is almost always up in the upper corner. Look, I'm pointing at the corner. So like if this is the box, the table is on, this is in 4 quadrants, right? So this will be secure, this is anxious, this is avoidant, and then this is disorganized, right?
Okay.
So that person who has the disjointed relationship with a parent, that parent is almost always up in here.
Okay.
Now, what's beautiful, even though you're like, oh, disorganized, I don't want to be there, right? Like, you could easily, they could be, if this is the axis, they could be like right here in just like a couple shifts. They could shift down into secure.
Yeah.
Yeah, they can shift down with some tweaks, but like disorganized, I would think too, like this is where the most work needs to be done in healing and repairing the relationship. But yet, so that's the long answer to your question. I
No.
do see that it makes sense.
Yeah.
Or there have been times, and I'm trying to think of a specific client and what it was, but the way that they had kind of like romanticized their parent, the answers, the attachment style quiz said otherwise. And the parent that they thought was secure was in one of the other boxes. And we had to work through that and talk through that. But then they're like, well, that does make sense because of this, and that, and that,
Hmm.
and this. But like parents, sometimes we do our kids, I say we, I don't have children yet, but like can do a disservice making them think that we're perfect. We
Yeah.
know everything, or this, and I guess being, I'm an attachment figure, is
Hmm.
what I'll say. Um, if we act like we know everything, we don't make mistakes. They can't have an opinion or give feedback, right? Like that can create this almost, it's almost like it forces them to have to only see us and talk about us in a positive light rather than just like a person having human experiences.
Yeah. And that's really superficial, right? But like kids, because my son, he's 4 and he will say, but you know what I'm talking about. You do. You know everything. And I'm like, mommy doesn't know everything. I don't know. I don't know what you're talking about. So you have to be intentional about the conversation that you're having with them, because I do think they like we see our parents as like this person that's supposed to, and so humanizing that for them, definitely you got to be intentional about it and don't just run with it like, yeah,
Mhm.
I do know everything. You're right. Like you
But
got
some
to.
people do that and they love to hear that. And
Yeah.
then the kid figures out later. And
Right.
then that has a different impact on the relationships, or really having to take the time to break it down. But what I also like to do with clients as they're figuring out just how human their parents were or imperfect they are, I kind of work with them to be able to try to create empathy to see their father as a man
Yeah.
trying to figure it out, to see their mother as a woman trying to figure it out, trying to be in relationship, trying to be all these things, not as an excuse, excuse me, but as context.
Yeah.
Um, because a lot of times people say, well, if it ain't the thing they want to hear, then it's an excuse. No, there's context. Everything is not an excuse.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's very all or nothing. And that creates tension, more tension for people. And it doesn't allow them to explore their truth
Yeah.
as much as they have to. Mm, I just had another thought. Uphold like the programming of the system, right?
Yeah.
So I think this is really good because my mind, I was starting to go to family dynamics and what happens in attachment style. And you talked about this a little bit already, like let that baby cry. But also how sometimes our emotions are sacrificed for the greater good. And we have to, there are certain things that people, okay, for instance, let's talk about this. This might be a little sensitive, right? So if we're thinking about attachment and families, when there has been a trauma within families with a family member
Mhm.
and the child goes and tells an adult this other person in the family did this,
Mhm.
one and multiple things can happen, right? Like they could hear the child, be responsive, address it, boom, bow, done. Some people dismiss it. That didn't happen to you. Stop it. Like, why would you tell that? Why would you say that? And or even if they do believe them, no one fights for that child's honor, for lack of a better word, or their innocence, because at that point, right? That's what it is. Like no one's being concerned with like protecting that, or they have to be exposed to the person after that. And rather than plucking them out of the family, the person who is perpetuating whatever behaviors that are harmful,
Yeah.
where it's like, no, you just got to toughen up. What?
Right.
Oh,
Yeah. So then my emotions don't matter, right? And you're right. So now we've sacrificed my emotions for the greater good of the family. And you're also saying that I'm protecting this person, the perpetrator, in that moment too.
and I can't believe you because that means I have to change how I think about this person, how I see this person, and I don't want to let that go. I don't want to have to grieve that. I don't want to see this person in any other way than the way in which I see them because then like it's and when you think about it, it's kind of like how people had a hard time with Bill Cosby
Right.
and the attachment people had to Heathcliff Huxtable,
Yep.
or even the people who still want to listen to R. Kelly's music. They don't want to see him as this person that did these things versus, the music, and what how the memories they have with that. Or, like people don't want to let go of what they want to let go of things because now they have to examine themselves or it might even shake their core or foundation.
Yeah. Change their life, their world, how they move, what they do. Yeah. Yeah. And you're right. Then that person's emotions become sacrificed for
Yep.
for
Because it's
this
not even,
picture.
yep. Yep. And it's not even about the person who
Let's victimize.
has done the thing, whatever the thing is, as much as I don't want to change how I
I feel
because
that's
that
right.
person is my North Star.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah. But
And
on the
you
other side of family and attachment, how
yeah.
could that go well? Let's talk about the positives, or bringing balance to it, right?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I hear you though, Like I mean, it's hard. It's all of it is, can be a challenge, but there definitely you have the opportunity to kind of rewrite your story. You don't have to live in that space. And like you said, you can humanize your parents and you can begin to let go of what you wanted and recognize what they are and
Hmm.
and help yourself to heal and moving forward, because I think we also have this idea of what we want. I wanted my mom to do this, or I wanted my dad to do this, or my grandmother or whoever to be this person and be loving like my aunt or like my best friend's mom, so and we get stuck there, and then we get upset because they didn't do those things to meet the standard, right? And that's just not who they are. And so we have to unwrite that story
Hmm.
and then rewrite the ending, because the ending doesn't have to be I'm a disorganized attached person my whole life. That doesn't have to be the story. My children don't have to be that way either. So there really is hope to rewrite your ending, your children's ending. You just got to do the work, and
Yes,
it can be difficult sometimes.
it is. And I love what you said about acceptance and meeting a person where they are. So, like for instance, I have a client who wanted their mother to be more emotionally available.
Hmm.
Mama didn't have it.
Hmm.
Now, what mom is able to do is to be supportive, like materially, financially.
Yeah.
And the client wanted a different type of relationship. And I say, hey, based on what you shared with me, it doesn't sound like she has it to give. So, and I clearly hear that you want to have connection with her. So that looks like then, how does your mom connect? Like, how does she express love? Like you've told me, she's helped you out financially. So maybe that's where you meet her. Ask her for help in that way. Then that makes her feel useful. That makes her feel connected, like she supported you. And, meet her there. Or if, some people, they're good at organizing stuff. So look at the strengths that they do have and focus on that so that you do have a relationship, because we will say that, and part of that, it is what we needed, right? So those things, we can see the gaps, but if they had it to give,
They give it.
and then when you really think about it and your parents' stories, if you do, or from what you have observed, you're like, yeah, it makes sense. But if we just want to be upset and resentful and woe is me, they didn't care, versus seeing them as individuals and their strengths. But that goes back to us thinking that our parents are supposed to be like everything and perfect. And there's so much that happens that we don't know about. But that's a whole process too, Brittany, as you know, to like grieve the parent
Yes.
that they've always wanted.
Yes. Yes. That is a process.
What recommendations would you give to a person who's in that space? Like, they desire a relationship with their parent, but like, there are gaps. The parent was not attuned to them. And so they're like, how can I have this relationship with them as an adult?
Yeah, I think the first thing is like a bunch of grace, right? Give
Mm-hmm.
yourself grace because going through the emotions of understanding what was and really what is
Mm-hmm.
and what cannot be, but what can be is it's not an easy journey.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you think about grief, right? So in this process, you're going to grieve the parent that you wanted. And grief,
Yes.
when you think about grief, we think about it for someone who actually passed away or something that we lost that was significant.
Mm-hmm.
And grief is hard, right? You get angry, you start
Mm-hmm.
bargaining, you go through all those stages of grief and intermittently and it's not a straight line,
Mm-hmm.
give yourself some grace, but do
Mm-hmm.
know that when you come out on the other side, you will feel lighter, right? Because you will have let go of the weight that you carry by trying to fit this person, your parent, into
Mm-hmm.
a box that they will never fit into because that's not who they are.
Yep.
And then you will see them for who they are and accept them for what they are. And so when your client that you speak of, because I've had to explain this to someone else before, this person loves you. So
Mm-hmm.
that 72-inch TV that they bought you that was $1,000, that is, I love you a lot. And this is the way I'm going to show you, right?
Mm-hmm.
You really wanted the hug. You wanted the nurturing, you wanted all of those things, but that's not who they are, and that's never who they will be. So I know that was a mouthful, but
Well, that's just good.
I really think that like my hashtag to that would be give grace
Yeah.
through this process. Just
Yeah.
give grace.
And also, Brittany, I think too, sometimes the child can sit back and judge the parent when they are now an adult
Yeah.
and they are in a position to create and curate the type of relationship they want to have,
Yes.
and to introduce things instead of, you don't have to sit back and wait to be parented.
Right.
Engage with your parent the way you want to be. And so I think a personal example of that I did with my family, and my cousin, she helped me with this, and she probably didn't even realize that she was like really over here doing like clinical work on the low. But saying I love you,
Hmm.
that wasn't like a regular thing. And she was like, yeah, my mama was the same way. I just started saying it. And I was like, girl, that's weird. Is what like, that sounds so uncomfortable, is what I was thinking. So this is when I was in undergrad. So I'm like early 20s. And she was like, just do it. Like it'll just try it and it'll be weird. So I started doing it once I was raised by my great aunt. And so I just started saying I love you when I got off the phone. And like I remember it was awkward for me, but she said it back and I'm sure that there was a pause. So I started doing it with my brother. And then I remember there was one day, I don't remember how many calls in because I wasn't like being all researchy because I was a comms major in undergrad. But she said it first, right? And so then it for me too, it just normalized me saying I love you to the people in my life that I love so much so a few years ago I was in the car with my brother and I was home visiting and I was on the phone talking with my line sister and I was like, okay, well, I love you girl, whatever. He was like, did you just tell her you love her? I was like, yes, because I do. I was like, you don't love your best friends? He was like, yeah, but we don't be saying it. I was like, what's the problem?
Yeah.
And so it became a thing that was reserved just for family. But if these are people in your life and you love them, express it. And so then you've introduced this thing, you're getting your need met. Oh, I had a classmate. He broke me all the way down one day, but in a good way where I was complaining about my family because I was stressed going back to school and I was like, they don't be checking up on me. And it really wasn't even about my family because that's what I was saying I wanted was really me going through an adjustment period
Mhm.
of not having my community, which was my friends, and not being able to engage as much socially. But I thought it was a family thing because it was what I would like.
Mhm.
I would like my family to call and check on me because I'm having a harder time with going back to school and the sacrificing. So again, this is a unspoken expectation which can lead to resentment, right? If you don't address it. And so my classmate was like, "Well, why don't you just call?" Well, why should I have to do that? And that's me, right? I'm giving the defensive response. He said, "Jeannie, why does it matter if you're going to get your needs met?" What?
That's a good point.
It was.
That's a
And so
good
I was
point.
it was so good. I didn't like
Mhm.
it at first. And then I sat with it. I was like, he's right. He is correct. And I picked up the phone, but that's also, I didn't want to be vulnerable. That was that avoidance coming
Mhm.
up.
Mhm.
And then I called my aunt and I was just talking to her and I was just telling her, I've been having a really rough time. I need you to like check on me more. And at this time she was still living and she was like, I'm getting older. I need you to also check on me too.
Aw.
And so that was a moment where me, the child, right, am expressing my needs, opened up a space for vulnerability, and then also for her to share, I need that too.
Yeah. Yeah. So she was able to be vulnerable too.
And
Yeah.
sometimes as a child, adult child, and even some of these young kids, they consuming stuff, they can introduce things to their parents as well, right? Like meaning they're consuming like positive things and they're more aware of mental health and talking about their feelings and such. But you have the ability to create and repair the relationship, which lends to what you've been saying that it's not all gloom and doom.
It's not.
It's not all gloom and doom.
And that skill is transferable too, because
Okay.
being a leader, vulnerability is important as a leader. And
Yes.
so
Great transition.
if you're able to be vulnerable with your superiors or people who report to you, then
Mhm.
then it creates a safer work environment. They can be
Mhm.
vulnerable with you too. They can begin to trust you, to trust your leadership. You can begin to understand. So maybe really what's going on and why they're late is because they're having childcare issues, but they didn't know that they can tell you that because they haven't been vulnerable with you. And now they're just living in fear every day and they hate coming to
Mm.
work because I'm just trying to make it here just so I don't get in trouble, to be on time. But you break down that level of vulnerability and you ain't got to tell them your whole life, right? But as a leader, if
Yep.
you're able to have that skill to be vulnerable, your people can be vulnerable with you too. They can
Mhm.
trust you. You'll get better results out of your people. So those skills are transferable in other places in
Absolutely. And what you bringing up too, like in the workplace, this is still a power dynamic, right?
yeah.
So you might see people engage with a superior, a manager, the way that they would a parent.
Yeah. Yes.
And you can see those dynamics play out too, and how sometimes even colleagues can act like siblings,
Yeah.
vying and jockeying for a position with the parent.
It's funny you say that because at one of my workplaces, we had two supervisors, and we used to call one mom and one dad. We used to be like, so who are we going to ask to help us with this problem? And we'd be like, are we going to ask mom or are we going to ask dad? So you're right. It does show up like that
Mm-hmm.
in the workplace. And we still have a strong bond now. And so that's accurate. Yeah. I've seen that happen.
Yeah, like attachment is everywhere. That's why I love it.
Me
Like,
too.
really, that's why I love it. Now, let's talk a little bit more about attachment and like faith and spirituality. And I can't remember what episode I said this on, but what I've seen with attachment is that we take our earthly attachment style and project it onto God
Mm-hmm.
rather than our attachment relationship with God being projected into the
Mm.
world.
Tell me more.
So if I have I've talked with a couple clients about this before too. Like if I have disorganized attachment with my father, who's really been in my life, I don't ask him for nothing because he's probably not gonna do it anyway, or he just gonna do what he wants to do rather than what I've asked for, even though he asked me what I wanted, or he's inconsistent, or he makes me feel like I bother him. What that looks like in the relationship with God is not taking your prayers and requests to God. Let me try to figure this out on my own. I don't want to bother God with this thing. He's probably not going to do it anyway.
I could see this. Yes, 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 yes. Yeah, yeah. And that's a disruption to what God is asking us to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm just like, I'm trying to remember which client like this, like, the light bulb went on and the switch flipped where it's just like, hey, sounds like you have this twisted. Like you're afraid of getting deeper in your relationship with God because you've not experienced secure attachment on earth.
Right. That's actually very powerful because imagine the things that God has that we can't tap into because we are programmed this way.
To not ask or that I'm bothering you to figure it out. Only come to me as a last resort.
And that's not the premise of God, right? That's not the premise of a higher being. And so that can really impact your faith.
And we can only be blessed as big as our faith.
Right.
And the Bible tells us if we're asking things too, we have to believe it.
Yeah.
And if you don't believe it, and if you know what I mean, you don't ask, you don't have it. Like, and there's so many scriptures throughout the Bible where it's like, talk to him about what you need. Bring your request before him. He will hear you. He will answer your prayers. Like, he's just waiting for you to ask. So, like you said, well, what am I here for? If, like, when you're talking about the relationships, if you're not going to include me, if you don't need me, then what am I here for? And so God just be hanging out, waiting on the invitation. And this, I say now, I'm a daddy's girl.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm talking about my heavenly father. I'm talking about God. Like, I am a daddy's girl. Like, I don't want to do it in the moments. And now, because I've come out of hyper independence because of my lived experiences, right? Where now, if it's starting to feel like it's too much effort, I'm working too hard. Father, boy, I'm gonna just go to Father. Let's. I would love. Can
That's
we?
a daddy's girl jam, right? Daddy,
Yes,
daddy, can you do?
exactly.
Yeah, yeah,
Can I do this?
yeah.
Like, and it just brings so much ease and just like joy, and it just makes me more comfortable. It does indeed make you feel secure because as you talk to God and you giving him all the stuff, one, that you're not supposed to be carrying because you're not supposed to be doing that anyway. We're not designed for that. That's the one codependent relationship we're supposed to have.
Mm-hmm.
is our relationship with him, where we don't want to do anything without him. Excuse me. And girl, where was I finna go?
You were talking about how you see your attachment style with God and how you reach out to him just as
Yes,
you would with your dad,
yes,
your daddy's girl.
yes. So, but I didn't have a traditional father daughter relationship either.
Mm,
So that's what also makes this that much better, where it's just like, oh, this is what it's like here. I'm never leaving. But it's
mm,
like the security is there. So the same way you talked about how we can it doesn't have to be gloom and doom, and we can repair relationships, like, and if you really get locked in with like God and your relationship with him, you start to see him answer the prayers. And it's not that he's having to prove his love to you as much as that's just his character,
mhm,
and he's gonna do it. And then the more you speak to him and you talk to him and getting more in a relationship, you're learning more about him. He's learning more about you. You get more comfortable to talk about the things, and then you see that, oh, he's listening. And
mhm.
just like parents do things at the right time, even though we be wanting it when we want it as children, parents, they know when it's appropriate. You're not gonna give a 16-year-old keys to a Maserati. You're
Right?
not. You're not.
Right?
You're not getting their first car will not be a Maserati.
No, absolutely not.
And so he will, give us our things appropriately. He'll give us our needs, but like, you also have to grow in your faith and everything.
Yeah.
And I believe when that relationship is secure, it trickles over into everything, because now you're not going out in the world with this chip on your shoulder. You're not looking for other people to like fulfill you and do all this stuff, because you're getting it from God. And then you don't have to be the fixer and the giver. You don't have to earn love anymore. You just get to just be you and the awesome person that God created you to be.
Yeah.
And that understanding
Yeah.
that your presence is a gift.
Yeah.
It's so good.
Amen to that. That like
It's so
wraps it
good.
up and puts a bow on. Like that's how that comes full circle, like transferable skills, but then the ultimate, transferring the skill to your relationship with God. And then ultimately getting your needs met
Mhm.
and being blessed.
And then
Amen.
it goes out into work. It goes into your friendships. It goes into your romantic relationships. It goes out into every area of your life. And now you're bringing positivity.
Yeah.
Some of those things don't feel as hard. Vulnerability is easier because you're talking to God all the time. You're not hiding stuff. You don't have to pretend like you got it. It normalizes asking for help. All of these things that help with connection.
Yes. This is
I
why
need to know.
attachment is so important and so juicy to me. Like I love me to talk about some, and I come from a foster care world. And so not I was in foster care, but I've done a lot of work in foster care, and I've
Yes.
seen, you know, how our foster parents show up, and how it
Hmm.
impacts our children's attachment, and things of the like. And so that's where I became very intrigued by it, and I would use it in many conversations with foster parents. But yeah, it's juicy. It's
Hmm.
and it is part of the foundation of who we are and how we just are in relation with others. So yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, how do we recognize when like insecure attachment is showing up and like wreaking havoc on our relationships, our friendships, and the workplace?
When it's not working and it's consistently
What
not.
what would that look like?
Because I was like, that was loaded. Because because all I could think was like, some people don't know what they don't know, right? But
Yeah.
when when things are not working for you across the board consistently, then we got to turn inwards and figure out kind of what's going on. And so sometimes we could recognize it by, hearing what these attachment styles are and saying, oh, well, that's me. Or sometimes our peers could say it to us. and you can recognize, oh yeah. And sometimes we don't even know until, we have a third party, like a therapist or a
Mhm.
mentor, somebody who's trained in this
Mhm.
work, that can help us recognize kind of how we're showing up, and how that relates to our attachment styles and some of the things that happened to us in our childhood. So it could be a multitude of things, but if your relationships are consistently not working and you want them to work, and you feel that the other person is putting in work and something just is not happening, then maybe there's something going on with your attachment style.
That's good. That's good. And now I'm also trying to think in terms of like behaviors. What might it look like in some places or just whatever relationship, right? One of the things that came up is having like unrealistic expectations for people,
Yes.
or easily, if a person doesn't get it completely right, I'm going to just do it all myself.
Yeah.
That's an attachment thing.
Yeah.
That's an attachment thing. That's either, I guess I would say that's more disorganized, because you allow them close enough to give them the thing, and then they show one little, and now you're taking it all back. You've completely disqualified them now because you've idealized them, and now they're a failure.
Yep. They didn't do it right. You didn't do it my way. And that's because that's what happened to you when you were a child. You tried to
Yep.
do it, you didn't do it right, you could never do it right. And so here we are.
That one group project in sixth grade, and now you don't know how to work with people in real life
Right.
where you're getting paid when y'all were sixth graders.
That part.
Yeah, it could look like being a little clingy too.
Yeah.
Like that person that's always coming and stopping by your office, or they're not picking up. I'm doing my work, but they're just there talking, or people clocking and tracking your movements.
Yes.
I'm like, I'm just trying to, I'm really thinking now. I'm like, I work, remote now, so I don't have to deal with some of this stuff. But it could come out in like meetings, like going back to the parental thing,
Hmm.
or if a person is used to not being heard or like over talked,
Hmm.
how they show up in the meeting, or them not even speaking up because they're like, well, nobody listens to me. We
Yeah.
literally are asking you
Yep.
what you think.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Mm, mm, mm.
Yep. That's attachment style for you.
Yeah. And it really does take self-awareness to say, it's me. Oh, my expectations are too high. Oh, I might be drawn to this person because they give off motherly or fatherly energy.
Hmm.
Maybe I should back up a little bit.
Hmm.
Or yeah, I am doing too much. I need to go sit down. Or I don't need to micromanage everything and everyone.
Right. They got it. And if they don't do it my way, that's okay. There's more than one way to skin a cat, and that is okay.
Yep, exactly. So talk a little bit about how healthy boundaries can be a form of like healing for attachment.
So someone who has a secure attachment is going to have those healthy boundaries, right? So they're going to be
Mhm.
able to say, "Oh, today I don't want to go with you to do this because I'm really tired and I need my rest." And they're not going to feel anxious that now you don't want to be in relation with me anymore because I said no to this, right? They're able to protect their peace and do, as like you said, like be who they are, right? And so it may be really difficult in other relationships to do that, or the boundary is like way too strong, right? Like disorganized. I bring you in, right? And then now I'm like, no, I'm shutting you off, I'm ghosting you, right? And it's like, but how did we get here? And maybe you feel like now this person is doing too much or this, that, and a third, but you never set your boundary in the first place because, like you said, you idolized them, you brought them in close. And so you
You
never
had no
had a boundary.
boundaries because you were so pressed to have them close.
Right, right. So you right. So you
Gave them
never had
access they didn't earn.
right. Exactly. So someone who's avoidant, that struggles with vulnerability, that is their boundary. They have that wall up. And that wall doesn't come down. That's necessary for relationships sometimes, right? And every
Hmm.
relationship doesn't need the same type of vulnerability, but but just being vulnerable in general helps build relationship. So not having that at all can impact more of the interpersonal relationship with people. It can just impact your relationship in general. So, and then the anxious one, you don't know when to stop thinking. Like you just can't put your brain on stop, right? And so your brain just is going and going and going. And so that comes out like, well, where are you going? Well, what are you doing? Well, are you okay? Did you need, were you doing that because you didn't like me? Was it something that I did? Did I do it? And so then there is no internal boundary that comes up, that shows up, and then they're like, they can't even follow you, even if they wanted to, because they're like, you're everywhere. So.
Right. They didn't call you yet because they missed the train.
Right.
Right. Like, so they're not there to call you. They're gonna do it. So that's, the person who's always checking, and they are violating boundaries, I think, sometimes when it's when a person is presenting with insecure or anxious attachment. You're violating boundaries sometimes because you want to know too much. You trying to be in the mix a little too much. And for some of them, they mislabel it as caring.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it's like, you're doing a whole lot. You want to know a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so how do we move towards secure attachment?
You do the work. You do the work with your therapist. You identify that this is what's happening for you, and then you identify new patterns of behavior. So when I start to feel this, like I want to push this person away in a disorganized attachment style, but deep down inside, I really don't want to push this person away. Do something different, right? I can say, hold on, wait, I just need a moment to think. Give me a second. I'll be back. Get yourself together, have this moment, instead of just ultimately pushing them away. Bye, bye, bye. So I just think it's
Not
really
bye,
just,
bye, bye.
but you know what I mean? Like,
All I heard was in sync. Bye, bye, bye.
that. But yeah, so I mean, I just really think doing the work, having a therapist that can really help you walk through this journey. Because kind of like we talked about earlier, it's one of those things where, what will happen intentionally, unintentionally, is that you'll look at what your childhood was like, and then you'll have to grieve what that it was not that you wanted, and then do something about the behaviors moving forward. And so understanding how you got here, why you're here, and making a choice to do something different about it will be the process that you go through to get to a better attachment style.
Yeah, and it takes time. Like, you're not, like, if you've been operating this way, because again, remember, like, bringing it back around to what you said, like, this is the beginning, 0 to 9 months, like 0 to 1, 0 to, some people talk about it up till 18 months as well.
Yeah.
So now you're 36. Like, you're not gonna just get that right overnight. So I think it is important to do it in smaller chunks. Like, working with the therapist, I think, is really good to help bring awareness. Like, I have a client, I've had the honor of supporting her, being when we started working together, being in a situationship with an unavailable man, to help her understand what was happening and increasing her self-awareness of the behaviors, but also her attachment style and unavailable people, and how she's repeating this, because that's the thing about attachment too. If we're not aware, we repeat similar patterns over and over again, and things can reinforce the attachment style and make us more anxious, make us more avoidant, as well. But once she got out of that, I've been able to work with her and help coach her into a relationship and stay in the relationship, because that attachment style will come up. And so she has a disorganized attachment. And there were times where she's like, I don't know if I can do this. And I'm like, is this you or is this your attachment style? Let's talk about it. Because
Right.
I'm hearing you heard something from him that wasn't stable, that made you feel insecure about the relationship. When really you need to go ask him questions about that statement and tell him what you heard, so that you can get clarity before you just run.
Right.
And because it's been a couple times where she was ready to be like, pew! And I was like, all right, girl, let's talk about it.
Right?
Did he really like what happened? Is this breakup worthy? And she's like, you know what? It is. I'm so glad I talked to you. Or she'll go have the conversation and we'll come back and report, like, you know what? I'm so glad I talked to him because I thought it was this, and this is what he meant.
Exactly. And we do that to ourselves in relationship anyway, right? We do a lot of assuming, and but he wouldn't have done this if he meant this, or she wouldn't have done that if she meant that. But like, whole time, just go talk to somebody. Go ask, get clarity, because you can't read their mind. Get clarity.
Exactly. And so curiosity, I say, is also a huge part of repairing attachment disruptions.
Yeah.
Ask the questions, well, what did that mean? Right. And these question asking, that's low level vulnerability because
Mm-hmm.
it does require vulnerability to ask a question because a question doesn't just come out of thin air. The question is rooted in something. And so sometimes people don't want to let on to what they are thinking based on the question they're asking.
Right.
So they just won't because they don't want to be, or they only want to be seen or perceived a particular way.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense. That curiosity is huge. And yeah, and leaning away from judgment. I
Yes.
always encourage people to lean into judgment. And there is also, I think, a really, I think too, learning yourself more about attachment is good. There's a good podcast. It's called the Love Matters podcast. A client actually put me onto it a couple of years ago, where this woman, she's a professor, I think at JMU,
Okay.
or at least at the time of recording, she goes back and she like really breaks it down. So I will have a client start at the attachment style in adults, right? So
Mm-hmm.
that can meet them where they are.
Mm-hmm.
And then they figure out their style, then they'll go listen to that episode and then just however, right? But it was so good that I went all the way to the beginning
Mm-hmm.
of it. It was just like what it was looking like and all of that. So that was like super helpful. And then she weaves
I have
in,
to check that out. You said
you
it's
will
called Love
like it,
Matters.
the Love Matters podcast with Dr. Jenny Rogier or something. And I can
Okay.
also send you the link for it.
Okay.
And I guess I can put it down here in the link, girl.
Okay.
Let me I might promote that people stuff, but go ahead. It's good. For learning about ourselves. She also does a good job of having people come in and talk about how their attachment style has shown up in like different ways. So I love it. So it kind of gives like a verbal case study that goes with it, and like the
Nice.
person reflecting on, this is how I saw it before. This is what it is now. Like it's really digestible. So
Okay.
I was geeking out on it a little bit, but it's good. It's good. I think it really does help with understanding people. And then the another book that I referenced earlier, which I'll also link down here, is written for like clinicians, but I think it's very digestible for a client and understanding attachment styles. And it's more so focused on like intimate relationships. So it breaks down attachment, but then also what I love is then they have the chapter 5 on romantic relationships.
Mm-hmm.
And looking at our own red flags that show up with
Mm.
our attachment styles, where that accountability and self awareness is in there. But then they also weave in, or she also weaves in, secure attachment. I think it's secure attachment skills is what they're called, something like that. Excuse me, to help put things into practice so you can get comfortable doing these things, because ultimately you're doing something you've never done before. It can feel vulnerable because like I think our attachment styles are also protective, part of the way how we protect ourselves from being hurt,
Mm-hmm.
and a way to get our needs met.
Yeah.
And so some people feel emotionally naked if I'm putting this down, what am I picking up?
Right.
Or understanding I might just need to let this go because it's working against what I say I truly desire, and that's a close, deep, intimate friendships, connections, relationships. You got to be willing to let the stuff go, to unlearn and learn something new, and take
Yeah.
risks.
And take risks. Yeah. Grace. That's why I said give yourself grace through this process, because it's not easy. It's worth it though. It's totally worth it.
So just to get a little personal,
Mhm.
are there any experiences that you've had maybe with like attachment and how it's impacted your relationships or transformed a relationship by intentionally applying some of these things?
Well, I don't know. Let me think about that. So I really think that I can show up anxious. I
Mhm.
definitely can show up anxious. I think that in my leadership, vulnerability has helped me. I think in my interpersonal relationships, vulnerability has also helped me. I think, yeah, I think that's a big one that stands out to me. Is like, one, I can show up anxious, and I do think that vulnerability really has been helpful in both at work and in the home setting.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that when your partner sees you vulnerable, then it just helps in any relationship. Like when you're vulnerable, then they can be vulnerable, and that helps with the intimacy. Like, okay, well, maybe I
Mhm.
can share. Let me tell you about this, or
Mhm.
so um and I've gotten a lot of buy-in by being vulnerable at work, like people recognizing me as a human and not just like somebody who's perfect, so that has been helpful. I've been working on that with my son, as I shared earlier. Him
Mhm.
thinking I'm just like, he's like, but you do know. And then now he's like, well, I know. Okay, well, I know. And I'm like, well, then if you knew, then why'd you ask me? So,
He was looking for validation.
well, maybe, but he didn't know. Okay, he don't know. He don't know, and I don't know, and we just don't know together. Okay, and I just want him to be okay with that, and not be stressing me out about knowing because
Or
I
we
don't
could
know.
figure it out. Right. Or we could figure it out together.
We could figure it out together. Sometimes, yes, we could figure it out together. That is the way to handle that problem. Yes, but sometimes in the moment, I'm like, we don't have the means to do that right now. We don't have the
Not
means.
right now. We're gonna
Yeah, but
put it on the list.
right.
Put it
So,
on the list.
but yeah, and that's how definitely I think can show up anxious.
Mhm.
Vulnerability has really helped. Than just being, you know, real about who I am and not
Mm.
faking it with at work, at home, or, in my relationship or with my son. So
That's good, Brittany. Like people thinking, I do keep it real. I do. No, when you don't express your needs, when you are not saying my feelings are hurt, you are not being real.
right.
And a big part, when thinking about this with attachment, and you said some things that align with this earlier too. That fear that, well, if I say what I really think or feel, these people are not going to want to talk to me, or they're not going to want to be my friend. They're going to be mad at me. Then you're never going, or you'll have a really hard time experiencing secure attachment because you're not allowing yourself, you're
You're not
not really being
free.
present.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, you're still no. I was trying to help you, but finish your statement. But you got it. Go ahead.
Yeah, like you're not being present, you're not being authentic, which means they never get to know you. And the client that I was talking about earlier that I coached into a relationship, we talked about how she wears a mask and that people don't really know her because a lot of times she would just stay out the way. She would be quiet, just go along to get along. And she's like, nobody really knows me. And that was feeling lonely. And so through a lot of the work we've been doing, her friends are like, oh, you're really changing like for the good and like showing up and like taking up space. Like, no, you're really different than you were a year ago. And it's been a gradual process to her that they're like, oh, we didn't expect you. Like, even her family are like, okay. Her mom is considering going to therapy because she's seeing like changes in her. Like, and she's growing up.
Mhm.
She's
Mhm.
growing up, even though she's what, like 26 or 27. But still, like, taking up those spaces. And it's just like, oh, I do get to see you. And each and every one of us are so dope when we don't express, and I'm not saying complain about everything and be negative, but like when we don't take up space, when we don't share our thoughts, when we don't share our feelings, we are robbing the world of those beautiful and wonderful things that God has put in your brain and the way that it works and what it's going to output and do good and wonders for everyone else, right? Because our gifts are not for us, they're for everyone else and for giving God glory. So, taking up an appropriate amount of space, it definitely lends itself to that vulnerability, and it gives other people the permission to do the same. And then, it's not your representative.
Right. It's you. It's who you are, and you're being.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any last things on attachment?
I think we covered a host of it. I mean, yeah, I don't have anything else that's on the top of my head right now.
Okay, awesome. All right. So then I'm going to close us out with the signature question. If
Okay.
you could leave the audience with one powerful truth to help them rise and thrive, what would it be?
Pick up your babies when they're crying.
Huh?
Pick up your babies when they're crying.
Okay.
Well, if we're talking about attachment, right?
Yeah.
Like pick up your babies when they're crying. You can grow from the attachment style that you're in that you don't want to be, that isn't working for you. Like there's room for growth, and just give yourself grace to do it.
Well, that was really good, Brittany. And clearly, we could have gone on and on and on
Yes.
about attachment. So, thank you for sharing your insights, your wisdom, as well as being vulnerable and sharing things about your own experiences of attachment. Um, and thank you for accepting the invitation.
Thank you for having me. This has been great. I appreciate it.
So now, audience, this is where we are transitioning to you for you to get your RTA, reflect, take action, and be affirmed. What attachment style do you resonate with the most? And feel free to go do some more research on it. I encourage you all to go take the attachment style quiz. It's a free one online with the Attachment Project. They'll send you results in email, and it'll tell you your style, the characteristics of it, and it'll give you this really dope output of a table to show you your different relationships and what contributes to attachment. Like what are I think it's like the 5 markers of attachment. It's really good, really insightful. And if you're dating, I encourage people to do this too, dating. So like 5 love languages is dope, but also understanding the other's attachment style is really huge because it'll give you insight to some of the behaviors as well, which brings us to taking action. I want you to start observing how attachment shows up in your relationships and start journaling on your experience. The change starts with self-awareness. That awareness, that acknowledgement. And if you are further along and you're ready to take action in a different way or a deeper way, find a therapist. I'm available. Brittany's available. You could also go on Psychology Today and use the filters to find a clinician that meets your specific needs. And then finally, I want to affirm you. I am worthy of deep, meaningful, and secure relationships in all areas of my life. Well, I want to thank you all again for tuning in for another episode of Rise and Thrive with Dr. J. Nicole. And I want to give Brittany one more warm thanks for spending time with us today.
Thank you. I've enjoyed my time here. Thank you so much, Dr. J. I really appreciate the conversation.
You're welcome, and thank you so much. And I guess we're signing off for today. We're going to keep rising in faith and thriving in purpose. Remember, episodes drop every Tuesday morning. You can find us on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. The merch is available. You can get to it by going to my website, www.evolvewithdrjnicole, and it's on the podcast page. Just click Shop the Merch. Make sure you like, subscribe, and follow, and we'll see you next time.